They put one of those plaster saints in the corner of the day room last year, right by the TV. Same pose, same soft hands, as the stone one in that church above Anzio. I'm sitting in the vinyl chair under the buzzing fluorescent light, the one that flickers when the microwave runs. My knees ache, my hands shake when I bring the paper cup of pills up to my mouth. There's a game show on, muted, some smiling woman waving at a new car. Behind her, behind the TV, the saint stands on its little shelf. White robe, gold-trimmed cloak. Painted eyes that were looking straight at the crucifix on the opposite wall when they first put it there. Now the head is turned, just enough to line its eyes up with my chair. It used to point its chin at the cross. Now it points at my chest, same as that night in 44, when we thought stone eyes couldn't move. I stare at it until the pills dissolve bitter on my tongue. The nurse in blue scrubs walks past with a clipboard, humming something under her breath. She doesn't look up. The wheels of a walker squeak on the linoleum. Someone coughs behind the partition. I watch the statue's chin, the way it points. There's a crack in the paint on its throat, like a hairline fracture from some old fall. A smear of brown where dust settled in the chipped varnish. In the fluorescent light, the eyes look wet. The ones in Italy did too, right before they turned, one by one, to face the men who wouldn't leave. "Mr. Kincaid," the nurse says. "You okay? Need anything?" Her voice is soft, practiced. I swallow the wet chalk of the pills and shake my head. My eyes stay on the plaster. "No," I say. "I'm fine. I've been saying that since the night we locked the doors on that church and pretended we didn't hear the knocking." She walks on. The microwave beeps from the staff room. The fluorescent tube hums and clicks. Outside, rain taps the window glass in thin, impatient fingers. The plaster saint keeps staring. There's a little note taped to the base. "Please do not move. Donated by St. Matthew's Parish." I remember when they carried it in. 2 orderlies. February. Snow on their shoulders, melting onto the tiles. The head was wrapped in bubble wrap, and when they set it down, the face was turned to the cross, just like the real ones should be. Straight, obedient. Eyes on the altar. I blink once. The room swims for a second. The game show cuts to a commercial. Someone laughs down the hallway. The saint's head is turned a little farther. My left hand tightens on the armrest. Tendons stand out like cord under thin, spotted skin. My thumbnail presses into the fake leather. I hear something that isn't the TV, isn't the nurse's shoes, isn't the rain. Wood. Old wood. Pews, shifting as men stand in the dark. Rosary beads ticking faintly against the belt. A draft moving candle smoke. Boots on stone. I smell wet wool, coal smoke. Cordite that never quite leaves the air once it's there. The day room bleaches out, and the light flicker turns yellow, then orange, then candle gold. I'm back in the church before I know I've left Anzio. 1944. The name comes after the smell. Salt and sewage, and cordite, and damp limestone. I don't see the beach first. I see the saints. We take shelter in the church on the second night, because the roof is still mostly there, and the walls are thick. The village is called Santa Marta, al Mare, or something close to that. We all mispronounce it anyway. Square little place with whitewashed houses, stacked up the hillside like a child's blocks. Shutters closed tight, laundry lines sagging empty. A bell tower with a cracked face leans over the main square. They tell us most of the civilians pulled out ahead of the landings. But there are still old women in black shawls who stare from doorways, and kids who dart between rubble piles like cats. The church sits on the high side of the square, stone steps leading up to heavy wooden doors, stove in by blast. Inside it smells like old incense and fresh dust. Plaster flakes crunch under boots. The altar is scarred but standing. The stained glass windows are mostly gone. Jagged teeth of colored glass, letting in the gray sea light and the sullen flicker of far-off guns. And there are statues. So many statues. They line the walls on chipped pedestals. Saints and martyrs, painted plaster, some bigger than men. Their faces are pale, eyes glassy. robes crusted with dust. In the flicker of the candles we light, they look damp, alive, watching. Jesus, Russo says quietly beside me. Italian Jesus sure likes company. Russo's real name is Anthony Russo, but nobody uses the first part. He's from Brooklyn, talks with his hands. Lip always has a slice of chewing gum tucked into one cheek. Right now, he's got a cigarette stuck to his lower lip instead, moving up and down when he talks. He taps his helmet every time incoming whistles, like a reflex. He keeps a picture of the Dodgers folded 4 times in his breast pocket, like a relic. I look up at the biggest statue. A woman in blue and white, hands outstretched, eyes lifted. The base says Santa Marta del Anime, the patron of lost souls, the padre tells us later. At that moment all I see is the chipped paint on her fingers and the streak of black soot across her cheek, like someone slapped her with a burning hand. Spread out, I say. My voice sounds small in the high nave. Pick your spots. No loud talking. We're guests, boys. Hanley snorts as he slings his pack off his shoulders. Sergeant Jim Hanley from Iowa. Tall, narrow, always chewing on a matchstick. He collects postcards from every town we pass through, keeps them in a rubber-banded bundle inside his jacket, close to his heart. He eyes the statues, then the vaulted ceiling. Yeah, he says. Think the lady's gonna mind the snoring, Sarge. I mind it. Ortega mutters nearby, dropping his gear with a grunt. Corporal Miguel Ortega. New Mexico. Hums hymns under his breath when he thinks nobody's listening. Plays cards with a small wooden cross sitting in front of his pile of cigarettes, like an extra player. He crosses himself quickly when he walks past the statues, eyes sliding away. Outside, a shell thumps in the distance. The sound comes in through the broken windows, muffled, like someone dropping a barrel in a far-off alley. The candles we've stuck in bottles on the floor tremble. Leave the lady alone, I say. She's seen worse than us. I don't know that, but it feels like the right line. They chuckle a little, and the tightness in their shoulders eases by a hair. Men move. Packs thump. Boots scuff stone. We claim pews and corners, setting rifles within arm's reach, unrolling blankets, knocking dust off ledges. I pick my spot between the first pillar and the altar rail. Close enough to the front to see the doors, close enough to the back to see the men. Santa Marta stands to my right, on her pedestal, eyes turned up toward the crucifix above the altar. Christ is frozen in painted agony, ribs stark, crown of thorns chipped. Someone shouts outside in Italian. The sound muffles. Then the doors groan as they open farther. Padre Leon comes in. That's what he tells us his name is. Thin man with stooped shoulders, hair like steel wool, face lined like the bark of an old olive tree. His cassock is dusty, fingers yellowed from incense and cigarettes. He clutches a rosary in one hand and a small cloth-wrapped bundle in the other. Behind him, a girl edges in, maybe 14, scarf knotted under her chin, eyes too big for her face. Padre, I say, standing. We're just borrowing your place for a night or two. He looks around at the men spread out under the cracked arches, at the boots on the flagstones, at the rifles leaned against pews, at the helmets hanging off worn kneelers. At least you keep your caps off, he says in thick, accented English. Better than the He walks slowly down the center aisle, murmuring something under his breath. The girl sticks close to the side, eyes flicking from face to face, then up to Santa Marta. She crosses herself quickly, lips moving. When she passes Russo, he grins at her and gives a 2-fingered mock salute. She looks away, cheeks flushing, and scurries past. What's in the bundle, Father? Hanley asks. Host, Leon says. And candles. And one thing more. He stops by the pedestal of Santa Marta and unties the bundle. A small framed picture comes out. A crude painting, flames figures in them, reaching up. Souls in purgatory. He sets it at the base of the statue, right below her outstretched hands. The girl kneels and lights a candle from one of ours, then sets it in front of the frame. The flame wobbles, then steadies. You sleep here? Leone asks me. Yeah, I say. Me and the boys. He nods once. His eyes are old brown glass, hazy, but sharp in the middle. He looks up at Santa Marta, then back at me. You must remember one thing, he says quietly. Never sleep with your face toward her. Russo snorts from his pew. Why, Padre? She's shy. Leone doesn't smile. The girl looks at the floor. In this place, Leone says, the saints turn their heads when they choose who is marked. It was so in my grandfather's time, in the earthquake, in the cholera. His fingers tighten on the rosary. The beads click. The night before the dead, the heads turn. They look at the ones who will not see another sunrise. Silence walks down the aisle between us. Somewhere outside a donkey brays once, then cuts off. A distant gun mutters on the line. Men shift, metal scraping stone, cloth whispering. Hanley chews his matchstick, eyes narrowing. Ortega's hand creeps to the cross at his neck. Russo laughs, a little too loud. Yeah, he says. They got any statues in Brooklyn, Father? Lotta dead there too. Leone's gaze slides to him. For a second, there's nothing kind in it. You joke, he says softly, as soldiers do. It is good. Laugh. But do not sleep with your face toward her. He turns away before Russo can answer. The girl follows, scarf trailing. As they reach the door, she glances back once, straight at me. Her eyes flick up to Santa Marta, then to my bedroll at the foot of the pedestal. Then they are gone. The doors thud shut. Superstitious old coot, Russo mutters, lying back on his rolled-up coat. Hey, Sarge, you gonna make us all face the wall? No, I say. I'm gonna make you shut up and get some rest. We're going out again before dawn. He groans, but he swings his legs up onto the pew and folds his hands under his head. The cigarette in his mouth glows once more before he pinches it out and tucks the butt behind his ear for later. In the dim light, his profile looks younger than it should. I sit on my blanket, back against the pillar. My rifle rests across my knees. Santa Marta towers above me, painted eyes on the crucifix. The candle at her base burns low, wax pooling, scent of cheap incense curling. Don't sleep with your face toward her. I roll onto my side anyway. I'm tired, bone tired. We landed on that damn beach 2 days ago and haven't stopped moving. Every creak of the pews, every distant gun, every whisper of wind through broken glass drags on my nerves. I face the altar, not the statue. My eyes close. At some point in the night, I wake. No sound I can name woke me. The church breathes around me. Men snore. Someone mutters in a dream. The sea wind threads through the broken windows. A candle sputters. Wax drips, soft and slow. I don't move. My eyes stay half-lidded. Santa Marta's painted gaze is no longer on the crucifix. She is looking down and to her left. She is looking straight at Russo. I don't breathe. For a few seconds I tell myself, it's the angle, shadows, the way the candle throws light. I blink once, twice. The pupils feel like they're drilled into him. His mouth is slightly open, one arm flung over his stomach. The cigarette butt behind his ear catches a line of light and gleams. A draft curls. The candle flame in front of her flutters and straightens. Her eyes do not move. My jaw tightens. I roll onto my back, stare at the ceiling. Plaster roses, cracks like veins. I listen to the wind in the shells and my own heart. In the morning, Russo dies. It isn't dramatic. No bayonet charge. No slow, noble speech. We're out on a patrol north of the village, moving through vineyards torn up by tracked vehicles. Frost crunches under boots. Breath smokes between scarf-wrapped faces. We keep low, weaving between stone walls. In the distance, the rumble of tanks and the flat crackle of machine gun fire drift on the damp air. Keep your eyes open, I say. Watch the tree line. Hanley, you're on point. Rousseau, you're on his right. Ortega, with me. Rousseau taps his helmet twice. Hey, Sarge, he says, you hear about the patron saint of Brooklyn. Our Lady of Permanent Overdraft. The men chuckle. Even Ortega grins. For a moment, we're not crawling north of Anzio, with German guns somewhere ahead. We're back in the States, in bars and kitchens and cheap ballparks that sell watered beer. Then something snaps under Hanley's boot. The crack is sharp, wrong. Not ice, not twig, tripwire, down. I bark, but the shout is meat thrown at thunder. The explosion is small, maybe a mine the size of a soup can. Enough. It rips the air, flings dirt and rock, and a chunk of metal that whistles like an angry hornet. I'm slammed sideways into the low wall. Ears ring. The world shrinks to a white circle and a black dot in the middle. I push up, choking on dust. Hanley is on his back, helmet gone, blood on his cheek, eyes wide but blinking. Ortega is flat in the ditch, hands over his head, shouting something I can't hear. 2 other men are up, rifles scanning. Rousseau is kneeling. He looks surprised. His right hand is at his neck. His fingers come away bright red. The metal fragment that found him is half buried in the muscle above his collarbone. Blood pulses around it in short, sharp spurts. "Tony," I say, crawling to him. "Hold still. Hold still, damn it." His eyes swing to me. There's something almost offended in them. Like this is a bad joke someone else told. "Sarge," he says, or tries to. It comes out as a wet click. I press my hand to the wound. Hot, slippery. The air smells like iron and burned powder. A distant machine gun rattles. Rousseau's gum is gone. His lips are pale. "Medic," I shout, throat raw. The medic scrambles over, pack bumping. We clamp bandages. We curse. We tell him he's fine. He's fine. He's going to be damn fine. "You dumb son of a bitch. You owe me 10 cigarettes. He gurgles once, twice. The trip back to the square is a blur of stretcher poles on shoulders, boots slipping in mud, shouted directions. The medic rides backward, one hand on the bandage, one checking pulse. Rousseau stares at the gray sky. His eyes don't blink. Halfway up the hill, his head lolls. By the time we carry him through the church doors, he's nothing but weight. We lay him on the flagstones in front of the altar. The candles still burn. The saints still watch. Padre Leon appears from a side door, hair messier, face drawn. He touches Rousseau's forehead, murmurs Latin. I stand back, hands sticky, sleeves stiffening. I look up. Santa Marta's head is turned back toward the crucifix. I don't say anything that night. Not when we strip Rousseau's gear. Not when Hanley pulls the folded Dodgers picture from his pocket and hesitates before tucking it into his own. Not when Ortega sets an extra ration of coffee on the step by the pedestal, muttering a prayer under his breath. I lie on my blanket again, back to the statue. Every few minutes my eyes slide open and I stare straight ahead, seeing nothing but that moment in the half-dark when her eyes were pinned on him. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the Padre's talk put it in my head. That's what I tell myself. The second night, the church fills with more men. Word gets around that our platoon has a roof, stone walls, fewer leaks than most barns, and blown-out houses. Rangers drift in after dark, faces gray with fatigue, uniforms damp, boots clotted with mud. They find spaces between pews, by the side chapels, under the choir loft. Rifles get stacked, boots unlaced, mess kits clatter. Someone starts a low murmur of a song and someone else tells him to shut up. I watch them file in, counting automatically. Faces, names, positions. Where they put their heads down, where their feet point. The pattern of bodies on the floor. I notice how many fall asleep with their faces turned toward her. One of them is Private Allen, kid from Ohio, freckles, ears that stick out in a way that makes everyone call him Radar. He writes letters every night, even when there's nothing to say, filling pages with nonsense so his mother has something in his handwriting. He keeps a St. Christopher medal pinned to his undershirt. He curls up near my position, his head angled toward Santa Marta, eyes closing on a sigh. "Hey, kid," I say, "turn over. You'll crick your neck." He smiles sheepishly and rolls onto his back. That's all. No lecture. No mention of old priests and turning saints and men who bleed out half an hour after you see plaster eyes on them. Later, when the candles burn low, I wake again. This time, there is a sound. It's soft, a dry, grinding whisper. Like two pieces of cheap chalk rubbing together. Like teeth in a plaster jaw. My eyes open. The church is a cave of shadows and dying light. The nearest candle is little more than a glowing stump. Men breathe in slow, staggered waves all around me. The sea wind pushes in, cold and damp. The grinding comes again, slow, reluctant. I lift my head an inch. My neck prickles, sweat beads along my spine despite the cold. Santa Marta is not looking at the crucifix. She is not looking at Russo's empty spot, where someone else now lies, snoring softly. She is looking down and to her right, at Private Allen. Her painted eyes are fixed on his face. Her chin has tilted just enough that the line of her sight is clear. The candle in front of her brightens suddenly, as if a breeze kissed it, then steadies. The shadows on her face sharpen. The pupils look almost black. The grinding whisper swells a fraction. I swear I see the muscles in her painted neck strain under the chipped blue collar. My throat is dry. My hands have gone numb. I can feel my pulse in my ears. No, I whisper. To her, to myself, I don't know. Alan snuffles in his sleep, rubs his nose, rolls half onto his side. His face remains toward her. I could get up, walk over, shake him awake, tell him to move. I could tell myself I'm rearranging men for security, preparing for a quick exit, making sure nobody's bunched up. Instead, I lie very still, pressed into my blanket, and watch. Because if I move, that means I believe it. That means I believe plaster and paint and superstition are marking men for death. That means I believe we are not just worried about mines and shells and panthers up the road, but about whatever old people in black shawls whispered about in this village before there was a war. The grinding stops. The candle's flame shrinks. I close my eyes. Alan dies at dawn. Not from a mine. Not from a sniper. From a shell that no one heard coming. We're in the square, saddling up to rotate a squad toward the line. The morning is gray and wet. The bell tower looms overhead, its cracked face streaked with rain. Men adjust straps, check weapons, trade last cigarettes. Alan stands by the church steps, helmet pushed back, grinning at something Ortega said. The shell drops into the street like a thrown nail. No scream, no whistle, just sudden metal and white light and stone. I'm on my face in the mud, ears ringing. When I push up, I see a crater steaming between two shattered carts, a door blown off its hinges. A shutter hanging by one hinge, swinging, and Alan lying on his side near the bottom of the church steps, his head at an angle no neck should manage. The rest of him is untouched, not a mark. Helmet still on, hands still open, fingers slack. A piece of the church facade, maybe the size of a brick, maybe smaller, lies a foot away, wet with something that isn't rain. Some fragment of stone or metal scythed through the air in just the right arc as the building coughed and spat dust. Padre Leon comes running. We move on autopilot. Check for pulse. Check for breath. Call for medic, though it's obvious. Somebody covers his face with a blanket. Someone else reaches for the St. Christopher medal at his throat and stops halfway. Up on the steps, the church doors gape. Inside, Santa Marta stands, with her hands out. I feel her gaze on my back as we carry Alan in and lay him next to where Russo lay. That night, I don't sleep. I sit against the pillar, rifle between my knees, watching the shadows crawl on the walls. Men shift, groan, fart, snore. Outside, guns grumble, answer, fall silent. Somewhere, a dog barks, then yelps, and goes quiet. Rain turns to sleet, tapping the broken stained glass like fingernails. The candles burn down one by one, each time Ortega or someone else gets up to replace them. The church fills with wax smoke. Every time the light changes, I look at her. Sometimes, in the shifting gloom, her eyes seem on the cross. Sometimes on the men. Once, For a heartbeat that stretches long and tight, they seem on me. Near midnight, the side door opens. Padre Leon slips in, cloak wrapped around him, scarf tight at his neck. His face is paler than usual. He walks down the aisle, footsteps soft on the stone. He stops beside me and looks past me to Santa Marta. "You have seen it," he says quietly. "I've seen 2 men die," I answer. My voice sounds like someone else's. "The Krauts did that." "Yes," he says. "They did. As they did when my father was a boy. As cholera did in my grandfather's time." He taps the rosary against his thumb, bead by bead. Click, click, click. "Saints do not kill, Sergeant." They point. "Point at what?" I say. "Bad luck, mines, shrapnel the size of a pea. At those who will not leave this place alive," he says. He looks at me. His eyes are very clear. In the old days, they took it as warning. They confessed. They made peace. Now, he gestures at the rifles, the boots, the helmets. Now there is only the war. He crouches beside me, joints popping. His breath smells of coffee and stale tobacco. "You can move the men," he says softly. "Turn their faces. Turn yours. But if she looks at you," he shrugs. "Better to be ready." "Ready how?" I ask. He closes his eyes for a moment. The wrinkles at their corners deepen. "Say the name of your dead," he says. "That is all that is left to us." He straightens slowly, bones creaking. The girl is not with him this time. He walks to the altar, bows his head, crosses himself. Then he leaves the way he came, disappearing into the sleet and the dark. For 3 nights after that, no one new dies. We patrol, we dig, we listen to artillery and wait for armor that never quite comes. Higher up, someone moves markers on a map. Down here, we move boots through mud. I watch the statue every night. Sometimes I think her head is straight. Sometimes I think it's not. The line between her chin and the crucifix seems to waver like heat over a road. Then the orders come. We're to push north, beyond Santa Marta, to probe toward a crossroads that intelligence says the Germans are using for supply. A night movement, quiet. Rangers work best in the dark, they tell us. We're ghosts, knives. We assemble in the church at dusk, packs tightened, extra ammo. Grenades taped so they don't rattle. Faces streaked with soot. The saints look down at us in the candle glow. Hanley stands near the middle of the nave, helmet low over his eyes. He's turned one of his postcards into a postcard for himself. The front is a picture of a girl in a polka-dot dress, leaning on a railing over the Iowa River. The back is blank, except for his name. He tucks it into his chest pocket, patting it twice. "Bring that back, Hanley," I say. "Sure," he says. "Gonna show it to the Krauts so they know what they're missing." Ortega hums a hymn under his breath. Something Spanish, soft and circular. He checks the small wooden cross in his pocket, kisses it, puts it back. His hands are steady as he slings his Thompson. I move down the line, checking straps, counting grenades, tapping shoulders. Names roll through my mind. Faces, positions. Kincaid, Hanley, Ortega, Miller and Jackson, O'Neill, Hayes, Carter. One man stands near the base of Santa Marta. Private George Miller, Kansas farm boy, jaw like a shovel blade. He's the best shot in the platoon. Can hit a tin can off a fence post at 200 yards in the rain. He winks at me as he adjusts the sling on his M1. "You sure she's not coming with us?" he says, nodding up at the statue. "Too heavy," I say, and she'd complain about the mud. He chuckles, then sobers. His eyes climb the statue's body, linger on the face. "Looks different," he says. My stomach tightens. "How's that?" I ask. "Don't know." He squints. "Thought she was looking at Jesus. She isn't. Her head, in that moment, is turned a fraction to the left. Just enough that the line of her sight seems to pass through the air where Hanley stands. I step between them, blocking his view. "Fall in," I say. We move in 5. Outside, the bell tower is a black silhouette against a darker sky. The village holds its breath. We slip out into the streets like smoke. The night action blurs, even now. It comes in sharp flashes and long blank stretches, like a film spliced by a drunk projectionist. We move along stone walls slick with moss, cross ditches that smell of stagnant water and rot, past burned-out trucks, their metal frames, skeletal. Somewhere to our left, a German machine gun coughs a warning burst, then falls silent again. Our boots make soft sounds on the earth. Our breaths puff white. Every sense is stretched thin. Every shape a possible helmet. Every shadow a barrel. We reach the vineyard first. The frost has returned, silvering the gnarled vines. Wire glints faintly. I hold up a fist. The patrol halts. Hanley moves up beside me, scanning with pale eyes. "See that?" he whispers. Where the vineyard ends, a line of statues stands between two leafless trees. They're small, knee-high, worn stone rather than plaster. Little figures with faces melted by time and weather. They stare toward the crossroads, where the faint glow of a lantern pulses. At their feet, someone has piled rocks and broken bits of pottery. "Roadside saints," Ortega murmurs behind us. "We got those back home too." One of the little figures has toppled, lying on its back, face to the sky. Its head is turned not toward the road, but toward us. A flare pops in the distance, staining the clouds green. We freeze, pressed into earth and vine and stone. The light sweeps, catches on helmets somewhere ahead. Men in field, gray move. The flare dies. We wait. When we move again, nothing happens for 10 minutes. Then everything happens. A dog barks once, twice. A shout in German. A beam of light knifes across the vines. Someone in our column stumbles, clinks metal. The beam snaps onto us. "Run," I say, before the first shot cracks. The night explodes. Tracers whip, vines shred, earth jumps as bullets bite. Someone grunts, someone else screams. We scatter toward the roadside ditch, hugging the frozen mud. Grenades arc, bursting in sharp, white flashes. German voices overlap, some sharp, some panicked. I am suddenly, acutely aware of every muscle in my legs, every thread of my uniform. The air smells of wet dirt and hot metal. "Hanley," I shout. "Left flank. Take Miller and O'Neill. Get around them if you can." He nods once, tight, and bolts. Miller follows, hunched low, rifle cradled. O'Neill thumps after them, cursing. They vanish into the dark beyond the roadside saints. Automatic fire rips where they went. I hear someone shout in English, short and angry. A single cry cuts across it all, then ends like a wire snipped. I don't know whose voice it was. We fight there for what feels like an hour, and is probably 8 minutes. In the end, we pull back, dragging 2 wounded, leaving 1 man we can't reach face down in the mud. The Germans don't pursue far. They're content to fire into the dark, then fade back, reposition, wait for morning. We limp into Santa Marta with the first gray of dawn soaking the sky. The church is colder than outside. Breath smokes in the nave. The candles have burned low. New ones have not yet been lit. We set the wounded on blankets near the altar. One with a graze along the ribs, one with a shattered hand. The medic bends over them, muttering. Men slink to their spots, eyes hollow. "Roll call," I say, voice flat. Names, responses. Kincaid, here. Ortega, here. Jackson, yeah. Miller. Silence. Miller. Nothing. O'Neill. Here his voice comes from the back, cracked. I look up. He looks like someone slapped his soul out of him. "Where's Miller?" I ask. O'Neill swallows. His Adam's apple bobs. "They took him," he says. "Machine gun nest up in the barn. We couldn't get to him. He was. Sarge, he was in pieces." A muscle jumps in my cheek. I nod once. Hanley. The silence that follows is heavier than any mortar. "O'Neill," I say quietly. He shakes his head, slowly, like a man in a bad dream. He was next to the wall, O'Neill says. Started to throw a grenade. They hit him. The postcard fell out of his jacket. I saw it in the mud. I couldn't. He chokes, bites down on it, stares at the floor. Okay, I say. Okay. I turn toward the altar. Santa Marta stands on her pedestal, hands out, eyes no longer on the crucifix. She is looking straight at the patch of floor where Hanley stood last night. The grinding whisper isn't a whisper anymore. It's in my bones. The angle of her neck is wrong. A thin line of plaster dust lies on her shoulders, like snow. Something in me cracks. I cross the floor in 6 strides. My boots echo off the stone. Men look up, startled. Ortega offers his hand out. I ignore him. I stop at the base of the statue and stare up. Stop, I tell her, under my breath. Stop it. Of course she doesn't move. Of course she does not respond. She is plaster and paint in someone's hands who have been dust for decades. But her eyes are on that empty space. I reach out and grab her chin. The plaster is colder than the air. My fingers sink into a century of grime. I grip and pull. Nothing. She doesn't budge. She weighs more than 3 men. My hand slips. Plaster scrapes my palm. I feel something sharp bite into my skin. Blood beads instantly. Kincaid Ortega says behind me, "What are you doing?" I don't answer. I wipe my bloody hand on my trouser and step back. "All right," I say, loudly enough for the men to hear. "New rule. Nobody sleeps with their face toward the statue. You find another way. I don't care if you hang upside down from the choir loft. You don't look at her when you close your eyes." A few weak chuckles, mostly stares. "You believe that crap now, Sarge?" Jackson asks from a pew. His mouth tries on a smirk and doesn't fit. "Statue's picking us off. I believe in keeping you jumpy," I say. "You stay jumpy, you stay alive." It's half a joke. It sounds wrong in the air. Inside, I know I'm lying. That night, the barrage starts. Not the scattered shells we've been living under. Not the occasional probing thump. This is a curtain, a door slamming. The first one hits somewhere near the square just after midnight. The church shivers. Dust rains from the rafters. Men jerk awake, curses overlapping. A moment later, 3 more land in quick succession. Closer. One of them so close, the stained glass teeth rattle in their lead. "Everybody up," I shout, already scrambling to my feet. Gear on. Helmets. Move. The bell tower outside takes a direct hit. We hear it. A deep, wrenching crack, like a giant bone breaking. Then the slow, grinding collapse. Stone on stone. Metal squealing. The bell itself hits the ground with a sound like the end of the world. The floor jumps. People shout. Ortega grabs his cross. O'Neill dives for his rifle. Someone screams wordlessly in the dark. "Stay away from the walls." I bark. "Get in the center. Stay away from the windows." Shells walk toward us, step by step. Each impact is closer, louder, more personal. Plaster clouds the air. In the flicker of the candles, the saints look like they're breathing smoke. A shell hits so close the altar lurches. Candles tumble. The crucifix above it sways, then falls, crashing onto the stone with a crack of wood and a gasp from a dozen throats. Christ's painted arm snaps off and skitters across the floor. Santa Marta tilts. The grinding sound is loud now, not in my head. In the room, her pedestal shifts. A chunk of the column behind her blows out in a spray of stone. The whole statue lurches forward, then arrests, leaning at a new angle. Her head turns. Not slowly this time. Not incrementally. It swings, as if on a hidden pivot, sharp and decisive. The eyes scan the room in a quick, unnatural arc, and stop. On me, everything narrows. The wash of dust in the candlelight. The silhouettes of men crouched under pews. The flick of Ortega's eyes from the statue to my face. The roar of shells outside. All of it fades for one long, thin second. Her painted pupils nail me to the stone. Cold floods my veins. Not fear like I've known it. The hot fear of bullets and charges. This is something older, colder. as if the bones under my skin belong to the rock under the church. The next shell hits the side aisle. The wall splits. A section of stone and plaster and stained glass disintegrates. The side chapel disappears in a blossom of dust and debris. Shards of colored glass scythe through the air like leaves in a hurricane. One of the smaller statues, Saint, whoever, explodes into white shrapnel. Men scream. Something heavy slams into my left shoulder and spins me. I go down hard, the breath knocked out of me. For a moment, I taste copper and grit. My ears ring. The world is a smear of gray. I roll, sucking air, and see Ortega on the floor 10 feet away. He is on his knees, arms up as if in prayer, but his head is gone from the nose up. The rest of him twitches, then folds forward. The hymn he used to hum hangs in the air for a heartbeat, then drops into the cracks. I don't remember moving to him. One instant I'm on my back. The next I'm on my knees beside his body, fingers digging into a shoulder that's already slack. Blood fans across the flagstones in a wide, glistening arc, slippery as oil. It soaks the hem of Santa Marta's painted robe. Another shell. Closer. The nave shakes. One of the smaller saints tumbles from its pedestal and smashes near the font, head rolling. Out. Someone screams. We gotta get out. Where? Into the square. Into that fire. Get them to the crypt. Padre Leone's voice, from somewhere behind the altar. Below. Below. There is a trap door near the front pews, half hidden under a rug. I saw it once, and forgot. Now, he's standing on it, white hair wild, yanking the rug aside. Here, he shouts. Come. Men surge toward him. The door creaks open. Steps yawn downward. The air from below is cold, damp, smelling of earth and mold, and something older. Santa Marta leans over it all, robes streaked with blood. I grab O'Neill's arm, hauling him up. His eyes are huge, whites shining in the dim. Move, I say, shoving him toward the trap door. Go. He stumbles, trips, disappears down the steps. Jackson follows, half dragging one of the wounded. Miller is not here to help. Hanley will never climb anything again. As I turn, the statue's shadow slides across me. Her head moves again. It's not the careful, deliberate turn from the nights before. It's a jerk, a snap. Her gaze leaves me and lands on the trapdoor, on the stream of men vanishing into the earth. No, I say, louder than I intend. My own voice startles me. Leone looks up sharply. Dust rims his eyebrows. There is a cut on his cheek, bleeding in a thin line. You, he says, jabbing a finger at me. Go, now. He doesn't intend to come. I see it in the set of his shoulders. This is his church, his saints, his dead. Another shell hits the remaining wall. This one isn't outside. It's inside. The world goes white and red and black. I remember flashes. A piece of plaster the size of a helmet spinning past my face. The sound of the remaining stained glass collapsing in a cascading scream. The taste of my own blood as something sharp opens my lip. The feeling of falling sideways into nothing, then slamming onto something hard, then dark. When I wake, it's quiet. Not silent, quiet. The guns are still out there, but farther, muffled. The church itself is wrong. The high ceiling is gone in places. I can see the sky through ragged holes. Snow drifts in slow, lazy flakes down into the nave. The bell tower is a stump. The far wall has vanished, leaving a jagged mouth open to the square. There are shapes on the floor that used to be men. I push up, every joint protesting. My left shoulder burns. My ears buzz like a hive. I spit blood onto the stone and blink grit from my eyes. The trapdoor stands open. The crypt stairs yawn. No sound comes from below. Hello, I rasp. Anyone? No answer. I stagger to the opening and peer down. The steps are slick. There is a light at the bottom. A candle, maybe two. The air that seeps up is thick, smelling of damp stone and something else. Old incense, earth. A faint metallic temps. Ortega, I say, though I know he cannot answer. O'Neill, Jackson, I listen. My heart thuds against my ribs. From below comes a sound, soft, rhythmic, like wood scraping stone, like necks turning in the dark. I grip the edge of the trapdoor until my knuckles ache. Saints do not kill, Leonie said. They point. At what? At whom? At me. At them. At the hole in the floor that leads to ossuaries and bones, and the names nobody remembers. For a moment, I consider going down. I picture the narrow passage, the low arches, the piles of skulls and femurs that I glimpsed once when the padre let us store crates down there for an afternoon. I picture the men huddled among them, breathing hard, listening to the shells. I picture plaster faces in the dark, turning one by one. I stay where I am. I hear nothing but the faint scrape. Then, slowly, it stops. The candlelight below flickers, then goes out. The hairs on my arms rise. Snow drifts in through the missing wall, landing on my sleeves. Each flake stings when it touches the scrape on my hand, from where I tried to make a saint move. I close the trapdoor. I tell myself it's to keep the heat in, to keep shrapnel out, to keep the wind from making that awful sound any worse. The wood thumps shut. I slide the iron bolt into place. No one knocks from below. When relief comes 2 days later, they find me and 3 others in the ruined nave, holed up behind a makeshift wall of pews and rubble, rifles across our laps, eyes raw. They never ask why we didn't go into the crypt. They assume we couldn't reach it. They pry open the trapdoor. They find nothing. No bodies, no helmets, no rifles, no padre, no girl, no men from my squad. Just rows of neatly stacked bones, as there should be, and a smell of old earth, and the faint outline of something drawn in soot on the far wall, half scrubbed away by age and damp. A painted figure, arms out, head tilted. The statue doesn't leave. Even with the roof half gone, Santa Marta still stands. The pedestal cracked, the robe smeared with blood, long dried rusty, but the face intact. Her eyes are neither on the crucifix, which lies broken on the floor, nor on any spot where men might stand. They are on the trapdoor. They transfer us to another position within the week. The front shifts. The beachhead rides out the storm of iron. Maps change. Orders change. Men are sent north, or south, or home in boxers. I never sleep in a church again. Decades slide by. Names fade. Faces blur. The smell of wet wool and cordite never leaves. Now, in the day room, the plaster saint above the TV stares at me. Her paint is newer. Her robe a different shade of blue. She stands on a little faux marble base with gold trim, but the tilt of the head is the same. The angle of the eyes, the way they've shifted, over months, click by imperceptible click, away from the crucifix toward my chair. I test it. On a Tuesday, I drag my chair 3 feet to the left. The nurse laughs, says I'm redecorating. One say my old spot was under a draft. By Thursday, the saint is looking at the new spot. I stop dragging the chair. The rain on the windows thickens. Thunder rolls far off. A storm coming in from the lake. The TV flickers images of people spinning a wheel for money they didn't earn. A volunteer from the local parish comes by once a week. A young woman, hair pulled back, eyes tired in a way that means she's seen too much of life too fast. She dusts the statue carefully, humming a hymn. Pretty thing, she says. They said it was from an old Italian church. Been in the storeroom for years. My heart stutters. Where? I ask. She looks down at me. Which church? I say. Which town? She shrugs. Someplace near Anzio, I think. Father Morgan said the diocese received a whole shipment of salvaged religious art after the war. Like orphans, he said. Statues with no homes. She smiles a little. You were over there, right, Mr. Kincaid? Yes, I say. I was over there. She runs the cloth gently along the statue's chin. Funny thing, she says. When we brought it up, it was kind of crooked, facing the wall. She laughs softly. Gave me the heebie-jeebies. I asked Father if we could straighten it. He said sure. Twice now I've come in and found it turned again. Must be someone messing with us. She pats the plaster cheek. Or maybe she just prefers you. She teases and moves on. When she leaves, the room feels larger and smaller at the same time. I wait until the hallway is empty. The nurse's station hums. Someone in the next room snores. The storm presses a gray hand against the windows. I push myself up. My legs complain. My hips feel like rusty hinges. I shuffle across the linoleum, slippers whispering. Each step is a negotiation. I stop in front of the statue. Up close, the paint is cracked in 100 fine lines. The gold leaf on the trim has flaked. Dust nestles in the folds of the robe. There is a chip on the left hand, showing raw white plaster under the skin color. The eyes are on my chair, not on the cross, not on the door, on the worn indent in the vinyl cushion where my weight goes every day at 4 o'clock. My hand shakes as I reach up. The plaster is cold. The chin is smooth. For a second, the muscles in my arm forget how to work, then they tighten. I turn her head. It moves. Not with the impossible resistance of the one in Santa Marta, rooted in stone and history. This one was bolted on badly, or the neck cracked somewhere along the line. It turns with a soft, gritty squeak until the eyes face the crucifix again. I let go. My palm has a white dust print on it. A laugh bubbles up in my chest. It dies there. I swallow it. I shuffle back to my chair and sit. The cushion sighs. The storm rattles the glass. For 3 days, the saint looks at the cross. On the 4th day, I wake up from a nap in front of the TV and find her looking at me again. No sound, no grinding, no volunteer with a cloth, no nurse with a sense of humor, just the head, turned, eyes on my chest. The first time I decided not to move a man, it cost him his life. I said nothing. I pretended not to believe what I had seen. I shut a door and slid a bolt, and told myself it was about shrapnel, not about bones lined up in the dark and whatever counted them. Now I have one man left to move, myself. The orderlies say they want to transfer me to a different room next week. Renovations on this floor. New paint, new beds. You'll like the new room, the nurse says. Bigger window. I look at the saint. She looks at me. I think of a trapdoor in a ruined church, the smell of earth rising, the scrape of unseen necks turning in the dark. I think of closing that door. Maybe you should move someone else first, I say. Lots of folks here older than me. She laughs. She thinks I'm joking. At night, when the hallway lights dim and the TV goes to static, and the only sound is the drip of a faucet and the soft squeak of rubber soles far off, I hear it again. Scrape, scrape. Not from the floor, not from the hallway, from the shelf, from inside the plaster. I lie there, eyes closed, feeling the weight of her gaze. I could call for the nurse, ask her to take it away, claim it's bad for my blood pressure. I could tell the parish volunteer to put it back in the storeroom with the other orphans. I don't. I stare at the afterimage of Santa Marta's eyes on the back of my lids and let the sound count off like beads on a rosary. One day they will wheel me out of here under a white sheet, through a door that leads to a corridor, that leads to a van, that leads to a furnace. My name will be inked on a tag. Maybe someone will remember to write 3rd Ranger Battalion Anzio on a line. Maybe they will not. Maybe the statue will turn to look at another chair. Maybe it will not. Until then, I sit under her gaze. If you stay, if you keep listening, I can tell you about other rooms and other saints. About men whose names you never saw carved in marble, who still move in the corners of your vision when you turn off the light. 3rd Ranger Battalion, Santa Marta, Almere, Anzio, 1944. Remember them.